Rise and Grind Podcast, episode 3. And as much as I like interviewing and having on major golf champions or former number ones in the world, that's not actually what I want this podcast to be about. I think there's great value in having guests like Bill Rogers on the podcast, but I want to dive deep into Medicine Hat. I want to talk to the small business owners in our community, because those small business owners, you drive around town, they are everywhere. That's what I would like to think of like the fabric of Medicine Hat, our community here. And it's much the fabric in every city that is out there that I go to. All these small business owners not only are trying to build a business, sustain a business, go through highs and lows, but there's always a really cool origin story in that. And that's where I want to get to. I want to get to the origin stories of these business owners. I want to talk about the struggles that they had, the fears that come with owning a business and running a business. And the guest that I'm having on today is a good friend of mine, Corey Eakins. And Corey has been in the golf business for over 20 years. I was shocked when he told me that. But he is the owner of Who's Your Caddy golf shop in town here. And if you're from Medicine Hat, I'm sure you've heard of his shop or probably have been in it, or maybe even gotten a lesson or a fitting from Corey trying to improve your golf game. But his entrepreneurial journey is really interesting. And in our conversation, we talk about his journey. We talk about his ability to identify a gap in the marketplace. And we also dive into those fears or those insecurities of like leaving a career, an industry, a very stable job. He was a golf pro and going into business. And it was interesting. He started with a business partnership and now he's the sole owner of Who's Your Caddy. There was a location change involved and he went through COVID. There were supply chain issues. And we talk about how expensive things have gotten in not only the world of golf for equipment, but just in general, and how he deals with that, being in an industry that has a cyclical nature to it, and cash flow does change throughout the year quite drastically. And I really appreciated Corey's vulnerability. I really appreciated how we got into those details, because those details are where hopefully you, the audience, can learn from. I know I certainly do. I don't really want to get into kind of the high level overview of businesses. They all kind of look the same from afar, but I want to get into the details. I want to get into those frustrating points. I want to get into that feeling of being scared, because I know for a fact that's going to be a common theme that we hear bringing on these guests, whether they're the best golfer in the world or whether they're a small business owner. We all have these insecurities. We all have these feelings of, gosh, is this going to work out? Is this the best thing to it? Everyone's telling me not to do this thing, but I feel it within myself to do it. And if there's anything I want you to take away from this episode, is that feeling of insecurity is normal. That fear is normal. And when you feel that fear, don't think of it as like a thing you want to shy away from. I would encourage you, and certainly what Corey did, he actually leaned into that. Like, hey, here's my skill sets. Here's a gap in the market that I see. Here's an opportunity. Yeah, it feels uncomfortable, and that's okay. Let's do it anyways and execute. So I really appreciated this conversation with Corey. He's a top 25 fitter in Canada, meaning there's not many people better out there if you need to tune up in your game or you're looking at buying your first set of golf clubs. He is the best in town for that. So without further ado, Corey Eakins, episode 3. All right, we're here with Corey Eakins, not only a good friend of mine, but local business owner. He owns Who's Your Caddy golf shop. Welcome, Corey. I really appreciate your time. I know it's your day off, so thanks, man. I do
That's
appreciate
okay, man.
it.
Thanks for having me.
Let's dive right in. Rewind the clock, Corey. I know you've been involved in the golf business, not directly owning your own golf shop, but you've been in the golf business for a long time. Rewind the clock. How did you get into the industry?
So I guess going all the way back, I mean, I started playing when I was 5.
Wow.
So typical, just my parents would drop me off at the golf course 8 a.m., pick me up at 8 p.m. I would just, practice play, blah, 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 all day, every day. And then I would say about 13, I think I was 13 when I just hung out there so much, like, why don't you just work here? And so I just started scrubbing clubs and cleaning carts and kind of worked in the shop there the whole time. That was back in Peterborough in Ontario.
Okay.
And then, so then moved into the pro shop, etc. Kind of did that that realm, we'll say. And then always thought I was kind of going to maybe do something sports related, not actually necessarily golf. Kind of thought I was going to do something in lacrosse or back in the day, so that was kind of always the goal. And then when I realized that wasn't happening, I decided to take the professional golf management in Barrie, Ontario. So I took that, and then my second year there, I got a job at Banff Springs.
Nice.
So I went from there to Banff Springs, which was a huge eye-opener for a guy who comes from a little town in Ontario. To go to Banff was super cool. It's actually still my favorite place I've ever lived. But
how did Banff come on the radar then? Were you actively looking for a golf pro job?
Yeah, so at school they give you X jobs. So they just say, here's in Canada, here's what's available, apply to whatever you want. So I applied to the Banff job and got it, did a bunch of interviews exactly like you and I are doing right now, basically, over Skype, and ended up getting it. And then after my first year is when I got my pro card. So I got it, that would have been '02 I got it.
Okay.
And then, so my second year there, I became one of the assistants. And then from there, I went to Okotoks, was the assistant at Darcy Ranch.
Yep.
Then I just taught, actually. I was just teaching at Golf Town. And then they asked me to run a store, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to try something different. So I ran a Golf Town store for a bit. And then I had family out in Medicine Hat, so Desert Bloom job came up. So I jumped out and worked at the Bloom, and didn't quite love the people I was working for. So just didn't have that great of an experience. So I'll say that was previous owners for anyone listening. And then that's where kind of the whole idea came. I was like, you know what, I still want to stay in the golf industry, but I'm just not loving the gig I'm in right now. What can I do? And then, I kind of just started this idea with the shop, with Who's Your Caddy.
That's really cool. And I've known you for a long time now, and I didn't even know that you did your first job was at Banff, and then you bounced around a little bit, and then you're at a Golf Town. So you've put in your years, like 2002 you said, right? So over 20 years.
When I got my card, yeah. So
Wow.
I mean, I kind of look at it like I always tell everyone when they ask how long I've been doing it, I'm like, literally my whole life.
Yeah.
Just because right from 13 you're just a sponge, right?
Yep.
So right from 13 I've kind of when I was back home in Peterborough, I always had a great mentor. And then actually when I went to Banff, his name's Miles Mortensen. He was a great mentor for me. Probably kept me out of a lot of trouble as well. But also very good guidance in the golf world for sure.
Gosh, and I don't know if there's a better upbringing, because I was very similar, like just being 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, and you're around the golf course, you start working there, you're cutting your teeth in kind of the labor force, doing something you love. Like I would have done that, I would have picked balls and got free golf for no pay, and then 100%. They were paying me on top of it.
100%, yeah. I mean, not that I'm that old, but 42 now. I think when they first paid me, I feel like I made I want to say it was either 5 something or 6 something an hour.
Gosh.
I didn't care. I would just like you said, I would have did it for free, right? I mean, to me, it was just an excuse to be there, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think looking back, there's so much benefit of being around older people, and also being in an environment where there's etiquette expected.
100%, yeah.
And gosh, I'm so grateful for those days. I'm sure like you are, because it's a great place to grow up. A golf course is an awesome place for any young kid to go and hang out, right?
Well, there's just so much more than just golf that you learn, right? There really is. We talk about it all the time, but there's so many life lessons, business lessons, et cetera, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's fast forward. You're working, the golf shop, Golf Pro life in Desert Bloom. And before we get to the transition of when Who's Your Caddy kind of came into your mind, talk to me about the Golf Pro lifestyle, because, a consumer or just someone listening out there might be like, oh, well, that's amazing. You get to work at a golf course, and, you're on salary, and you get to, it appears like you get to play golf all the time, which I know isn't the case. But I know that grind. Talk to me about the Golf Pro lifestyle, and maybe the things that you liked about it, but also the things that maybe kind of got you out of that industry.
Yeah, I did like it. I did like it a lot. I would just probably say pro wise. I mean, obviously being at the course, you know what I mean? Being at the course every day, just being, there's nothing, I mean, you would agree with this. There's nothing better, in my opinion, when you work, say, 6 in the morning, you got to be there for 5:30, and you walk in and it's a little bit foggy. It's, you know, it's going to be a great day. You hear the birds chirping, the sun's hitting the grass. There's just something about that atmosphere when you walk into it that just, one, changes your mindset, but two, changes your mood.
Absolutely.
So I would say that to this day, that is still a fan favorite of mine. Seems small, but it's big to me. So obviously I love that. For the most part, I think the golf industry, because it is a small group, right?
Yep.
Very small group. There's lots of great people in it, and the people that you meet in it is unreal as well. Like, I mean, some of my best friends have came from just meeting them, being at the shop, checking them in, and then creating a relationship, and then it lasts for years, right?
Yeah.
So those are the positives for sure. The cons is that you never stop working. I mean, you're there from 6 a.m. until sometimes you don't leave till midnight, and then that just happens on repeat. So really, I'll be honest, at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is go on the golf course. You want to go home, and at the time I didn't have kids and stuff, but I mean, when I did, that obviously changed a lot. You just want to go home to your family. Yeah. You don't want to go play golf, so your golf game goes downhill. And yeah, you just want to kind of take a hike from the course.
Yeah, it's almost unfathomable to work an open shift and then be like, hey, I'm gonna go spend another 5 hours on the property playing golf.
Right.
Like, it's I certainly felt that too working in the shop. I would usually try to somehow get off at like 10:30 a.m. and go play, but you know, it's, if you're there all the time, it does kind of turn you off of wanting to go play, and it also kind of takes that romance of the game out, I felt too.
I 100% agree. Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off,
Yep.
but I think honestly, I probably just lost a little passion. Just never. I wasn't great at separating it back then, right? Like work life. So yeah, it just kind of killed the passion a bit, and then it was like, well, now I'm just working. I'm not really so much doing something I love anymore. I'm going to work now. Where when previous, it never felt like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really good point. At what stage, because obviously you were working at Desert Bloom, was there like a moment or like something that clicked in your mind? You're like, you know, I want to do something different. And then with Who's Your Caddy, did it come about really quickly, or was that something that was kind of stewing inside you and slowly formalized?
I would say that it was in me for a long time. Like, even when, I know this is going to sound cocky, and I definitely don't mean it to come across that way, but even when I was at Golf Town,
yeah,
I just always thought I could do it better. Like, I just felt like I had better ideas and would like to see it, I'll just say ran, I guess, but ran a different way. And so I've always had that in my head that I think I can do a better job at this than at least what I'm witnessing, right? And then when I came out here, actually, let me back it up for a sec. The one thing I do notice so I'll say like green grass versus non, right? So pro shops versus non is, and this is absolutely no disrespect to any pro, because there are some with tons of knowledge. I'm just speaking on what I've come across in my experience. The lack of knowledge from golf pros when it comes to club-wise, right? Fitting-wise, club-wise, you know, there's some good teachers out there. They know, you know, I'll say maybe even the business side of the actual golf industry. But when it comes to knowledge of product and fittings and all that stuff, it's low, and it's really low. And so that was another one where I'm like, this is something that I guess if you want to use take advantage of, but this is something that I could take advantage of because I know mine's high, and I could see myself kind of separating myself from people in that regard. So that's kind of where it started, where the thought even came. And then obviously funds come along with that. So back then, I mean, I didn't have a pot to piss in, if I'm being honest. Yeah. So that was just out of the question. And then obviously later down the road that changes a little bit. And
cool.
Yeah.
That's because I got a little cheat sheet here too. And one of my questions was like, you know, did you identify a gap in the market that you felt like you could serve? And you did answer that, like, absolutely. Like the knowledge base holistically is quite low because, you know, golf pros, you can go a lot of different directions as a golf pro. Some people just like standing behind the shop, ringing people in.
100%.
But I could tell very clearly that's not what kind of got you going, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, good point, right? I mean, that's the other thing with golf pros. Like for us, we have, I'll say, one focus, but our focus is product / fitting.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't, yes, we take care of customers and all of those things as well, but we don't have the tournaments to deal with. We don't have the food and beverage to deal with. We don't have so as a pro, you are pulled in a bunch of different directions. So, I'll defend them in the same sense as saying what I said before. So it's just different. It's just different, right?
Yeah, it's like you're specializing in something that not only you think there's a gap in the market, but also that you enjoy too.
That's right. Yeah. And it just, I don't know, after, doing it for 20 years, it just gets boring. Like it was just, to me, it was just the same thing. And what I had the passion for was making people, not only lesson wise, but making people better with their equipment, right? Mm-hmm. Like we would teach and I'd be like, half of the issue here is just what you're using, right? Like if we dial this in, yes, we obviously still need lessons, etc. But this is going to up it on its own. And then I just started to grow more passion for like the actual product and how to get someone spin down and hit it higher, hit it right, hit it left. Like that's when I started to kind of dial all that stuff in, and it just kind of took over, and I just started to really, really like that side of it.
Gosh, in the last, you've been doing this for over 20 years, the technology, not only, like for the folks that don't know the golf side of things that well, like there's the technology side with the manufacturers, the clubs, the shafts, but there's also like, I would say more the learning side where the measurement of the thing that we're trying to accomplish has just totally 100x'd. And so I could imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that side of things is really appealing, I'm sure, to a guy like you, because not only can you help people quicker, but it's also like you get to learn other new things about how to help these people too, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
That's really cool. Now, let's get into the business side of things, because one of the things about this podcast is I love hearing business stories from local people. And not only do I hope that the listeners out there will think of supporting local first when they do go out and use their hard-earned dollars, but I know from my own business, everyone has a really cool story. Everyone's dealt with adversity. Everyone's probably felt super uncomfortable at some points. So you guys you did create Who's Your Caddy with a partner, and then you were up on Dunmore Road?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Walk me through that first year of being like, okay, we're doing this. How did the name come about, number one? And then number two, talk to me about the emotion of like kind of having to burn the boats on your previous career and go all in on this new venture. Can you talk to that transition?
Yeah, it was scary as shit, to be honest. Yeah, I was shitting my pants the whole time. So when I first got the idea, I was like, okay, I obviously talked to my wife and said, this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm going crazy here. I need to make a change. And then Brian, who worked with me at Desert Bloom, I went to him. I know he wasn't loving it either. We'll just say that. Yep. And so I went to him and said, hey, I have this idea. I want to open up a golf shop, but obviously I have half of the money, and I need a partner. Is it something that you'd be interested in? We got along at the Bloom, and right, so it was all good. So he was all for it. So we both, gave our notice and left and said we're doing this. Mm-hmm. And so that would have been 2016 is when that started.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, May of next. We're in year 9, so next year will be 10 years of Who's Your Caddy, which is pretty cool. But
that is really cool.
Yeah. So he was all for it, and then we got it going. May of 2016, we started it. Kind of started the renos and all that. I think it took us like maybe a month or two, and we were open. And then from there, I think he was with me. I could be wrong on this, but I want to say like 2.5 years, maybe 3 max, but I'd say 2.5 years. And you know how it is with partners. It's difficult. Like, I'll be honest, and I'm sure he'd say the same thing. It's just difficult, right? Like, different mindsets, different work ethics, et cetera, right? So, and I think I'll be honest, I think he just liked the pro life, because now he's at Connaught, he's the pro at Connaught. Him and I still have a good relationship, get along very well. I just don't think that scene was for him. And once again, no disrespect to him, but I just think the knowledge on the actual clubs and stuff, I think when he got into it, I think he might have realized that, oh shit, maybe I don't know as much as I was thinking I did from that regard of it. And I think he did. I think he just likes that pro life. So he went back to that. I ended up buying him out after, I'm going to say 2.5 years. And then I've been on my own ever since. Yeah.
That's cool. And I appreciate you sharing that. And for those people that haven't been in a business partnership before, it's a whole new ballgame. Like, it's bizarre.
Oh, man. Yeah. Because that was my first time. Like, I'd never been in one before, right?
Yeah, and I'm right now in this season where I'm at with one of the businesses. There's some friction there, and it's not fun, right? Because
For sure.
naturally you probably get into that business relationship due to friendship, due to being close to someone.
Yeah.
And when you get onto the other side of the curtains, kind of behind the scenes, where now it has to do with your livelihood, it has to do with you guys working together, however many partners there are. It's a game changer. And what I've learned over the last year is I'm just not really wired that way. Like, I'm more of like not a one-man show, but it's like I feel not only obligated to my partners way too much, but I also know that as you progress in your entrepreneurial journey, sometimes expectations change, and it sounds like kind of that's what happened, and I'm happy to hear that everything's cordial and everything went smoothly. Now, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it. Yeah, it is. Like I say, I think, you know, I think people just because you move on from each other, that doesn't mean that it has to be a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I say, to this day, we still have a good relationship. So, I mean, I just think once again, I guess, long story short, I think he wanted to do that life and I'll call it the pro life, and then I still like this life better. So, and that's okay, right? Like, that's okay for both of us.
Yeah, and I would argue that if you guys were to stay in that partnership, because this is how I feel with what I have going on, it's actually doing a disservice to everyone if you stay that way. If you stay status quo.
Yeah, why would you stay in something that, I guess I'll use the word unhappy, but why would you stay in something that you're unhappy with? That's one thing I don't really get. Mm-hmm. The one thing I will say, though, is when I bought him out, it was, I'm going to say like 14 days later. I think I have it marked down. I think it was 14 days later when COVID hit. So I bought him out and then closed for 3 months. So I was like, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? Like, I just bought him out. I'm on my own now, and now I can't even open the store. Like, now I can't even make a penny. So yeah, so that was probably the most scared, I'll say, that I was in the whole scene when we had to close for 3 months, and now I literally just went on my own. I was like, oh my god, what am I doing?
Now you got a bunch more capital invested, and
right.
and that's probably a good transition, because I do want to talk about how COVID affected things and then moving to your new location, but talk through kind of the constraints you had during COVID, and then also how that affected either it be price point or your availability to get inventory when you were able to open up. What were the kind of top 3 challenges that come to your mind during that time?
Well, at the very start, I literally left my cell phone on the door because we couldn't be there, right?
Yeah.
Well, we could be there, but we couldn't have anyone in there, so there's no point of being there. So I left my cell phone on the door. People would phone my cell phone and say, hey, I'm looking for a bag, or I need a bag, or I need this. I would drive from my house down to the shop to sell a bag or a bag of teas. Like, I didn't care what it was. I was just trying to get sales, right?
Any revenue at that point, right?
Correct, right? So when you go from nothing to maybe getting a bag sale, you're like, yep, I'll meet you down there in 10 minutes. So that was obviously a huge challenge. Mm-hmm. That was the, I guess I'll say piss off. That was the piss off at the start. Sorry, what was the second part of your question there?
Just the other challenges that you faced, whether it be, struggling to get inventory, or, I know other people were able to go to golf courses at that time, right? Which I'm sure was frustrating for you, but what were some of the other challenges through those couple of seasons?
Yeah, so after COVID, I'll say that was the biggest struggle, was really just being able to be in there and have people in there. That was struggle number 1. And then number 2 would come with getting product. Like we had people waiting. I would say the shortest people waited in COVID was probably 3 months if we had to custom order something. We had people waiting, I would say 3 to 6 for sure, maybe even 7 months to get, the whatever driver of that year. I can't even remember, but
By
yeah.
that time, TaylorMade's released a new driver.
Exactly, right? Yeah, yeah. So the new one's out and they're still waiting on the old one. So that was a challenge, right? Basically, you were selling whatever you had in the shop because there was the odd person that would wait. And then if you got one that was 3 months, you're like, oh, it's only 3 months. That's pretty good. When normally it's like 7 days and you get it, right? Like no COVID. So those two things by far were the biggest hinder.
Cool. Now transitioning to your guys's your new location down on Kingsway, I want you to talk about, because we've talked about this and I know probably some of the answers, but the layout of the shop was very important to you. Can you talk to that, and then also walk me through kind of leaving your current location and kind of shopping around, finding that current location that you're in? What did that look like?
Yep. So the one we were in, the comment we kept getting in our old one was they couldn't see us, right? So our sign did suck. I'll agree with everybody on that. It was amazing at night when it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? So it was really good at night, but terrible in the day because it was a black background, blue letters. So they couldn't see it, and and for anyone who knows where it would sit right beside like Once Upon a Child and stuff. So it's kind of tucked back in, right? Like you can see it from Dunmore, but it is back.
Yeah.
Parking was terrible. Like it's probably the worst parking lot I've ever been in.
Yeah.
And then we just couldn't really renovate it. It was already like one big open space, and the ceilings were so high. I just felt a little bit stuck. So when our lease came up, I was like, you know what, we definitely need to find, if we want to grow this, we need to grow this store, like the store itself as well.
Yeah.
We started doing some hunting, looking around. That one came up on the corner. I've kind of always been, I don't know what has ever drawn me to that. Like, I'm a bald, so clearly I do not get my hair cut ever. But because it was a salon before is where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So it was called Studio Select. But every time I drove by that, for some reason, that Studio Select just stuck in my head. And I was like, I seem to drive by this all the time. And I remember Studio Select, and I'm a bald guy. So something's to that corner. So then when it came up, it just so happened that it came up for lease when we were looking, and I was like, well, I'm going to check it out for sure. So we went in, liked what we seen, knew that we could reno it and change it the way we wanted it.
Gotcha.
And that's really, we did a traffic count. I guess the biggest thing for me is when we did the traffic count, I want to say it was like 10,800. So 10,800 cars go by there a day. It is the busiest intersection in the city.
Yeah.
That was obviously a huge selling point. If you're kind of, I guess I'll use the word force, but if you're forcing people to see your sign, it has to help, right? Like, it has to help.
Here's the determining fact. This isn't very detailed, but since you've been in that location, I can't tell you the number of times when I'm driving on Kingsway and I'm like, oh, I'll pop by and see Corey. Whereas that never really happened on Dunmore. And I'm on Dunmore Road lots, but it never came into mind because on Kingsway you literally have to drive 10 feet from the door.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
one way in, one way out as well in the old place, right? Where this one, I know everyone comments a little bit on the parking still, but you can get in and out both sides, and there's parking out in front when the snow is gone, and you can actually see the stalls.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
and there's never going to be a 10 out of 10 location with everything. It is
exactly right. So way more pros than cons at this shop now for sure. And the fact that in our old shop, our simulator was like right in the middle of the store, if you remember that. So when you're teaching and fitting, and a lot of people like to do that in privacy, right? Like they don't like, especially if they're new golfers, they don't want to have someone just watching them shank it into the curtains or whiff it or whatever, right? So we got to have our sims separate from the store in this one. Just a lot of pros for sure.
That is because I remember talking to you about that, and that's a really big deal. That would be like you going into a suit store and having to get changed right in the middle of the store. Like people are very, very, I would say, embarrassed to hit golf balls in front of people. It's a weird thing. But especially if you're, a consumer's paying you to, not critique them, but help them.
Yeah.
They don't want that in public. They want it to be back in a private room. So I think that in itself is a huge thing that some people listening won't really get emphasized enough. Now, I'm not sure how much you can talk about this, but maybe at a high level, with your lease, obviously you had to do some renovations there.
Yep.
Did you kind of just bake that into your lease? Did you have to put money in to make it how it wanted, or what did that lease look like?
Yeah, so I did the rent, like I paid for the renos.
Okay.
Yeah, so I lease the building, I pay for the renos. I came up with an agreement that if I do the renos and then let's just say improve your building, right? Mm-hmm. Then this is what I expect from your side. So they didn't give me money back or anything. I just kind of built it in that I don't even know what I can say or can't say about it, but basically it was I got X amount of free months rent if I did the reno.
Love that. Now, I want to dive kind of a layer deeper into the nuts and bolts of your business, because you are very much a small business, much like I am, much like a lot of listeners out there. And I know some of the challenges that come along with that. Okay, and I want to pick your brain on how you deal with not the issues of the things that I'm going to bring up, but the things that are on my mind. Because I know I've done this before, where I pop into your shop and say, "Hey, is Corey around?" And it's almost like I call him in my world, like when I'm at the office, got a minute? Like, hey, do you got a minute? Hey, do you got a minute? And
right.
It's how do you deal with building this brand up, but you are the face of Who's Your Caddy. Everyone knows you synonymously with the brand. And people, when they come to the store, they want to talk to you. That's a great thing, but it also can be some golden handcuffs a bit. How do you deal with that?
I 100% agree, because every day I'm even to this day I'm still trying to figure out how to, if I'm being honest. I had a conversation with my accountant actually, and one day, and we were just talking about numbers and stuff. And he said, the only issue that you have, if you do ever want, not that I do, but if you ever do want to sell Who's Your Caddy, he's like, you have to sell you. He said, because you, and this was actually when I even started to first think about it, to be honest. I didn't actually realize that we created this until he mentioned it, and I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. Good point. Now you got me thinking.
Yeah.
So we get it all the time, even now with, like, I don't have a ton of staff, right? I have one full-time girl, I have a part-time guy, and then one part-time, so 2 part-time guys and a full-time guy.
Okay.
Or full-time girl, I should say. And so people come in, they ask, is Corey here? Whether I'm teaching or fitting or I'm just not there when it is, and then they go, because they only want to talk to me. And it's trying to, I just put more, I guess right now the way I'm trying to deal with it is, 1, I want them to be seen more. 2, obviously I'm trying to make them have, I don't want to say the same, but I want them to have the same knowledge I do, right? So that when people come in, that they can give let's say the proper or the answers that we're looking for, right? So just getting them, I would say my biggest thing right now is trying to get them on the same level as me. Mm-hmm. In regards to just product knowledge and how we I call it a vibe. I always say when I hire people, don't crush the vibe in this store. That's the one thing that will get you going out the door. Because I do like to keep it a fun. You know what I mean? Like I like it to be fun in there. I don't like pressure sales. I don't want it to be pressure sales. Yes, I have a large understanding that sales is what makes us stay floating, but that's not how I want it to go. I don't want it to be that kind of shop, and I think that it's working. I just have to try to find a way to get my staff a little bit more on board with, I guess I'll say my thinking, right? Or the way that we'd like the shop to be.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. Yeah.
It is very much a challenge. Even in real estate, it's the same thing, right? Like you can only handle so much, and then I'm sure in the back of your mind, if you're doing a fitting, you can hear someone say, "Hey, is Corey here?" And then they leave. And at least how I would be is like, "Gosh, revenue just walked out the door." Maybe
every single time I think the same thing. Yeah.
It's a good problem to have. But you kind of created it. Now as I would say, the next stage you'll figure that out one way or the other, right? And I think that's where I do want people to hear that challenge too, and maybe think twice about like just popping in and be like, hey, I'm gonna go bullshit with Corey for 45 minutes when he's really in a fitting, right?
Yeah.
And that got a minutes, or that the disruption throughout the day could be fairly frustrating, right?
Yeah, it is. So I guess to answer your question, I haven't found a way to deal with it yet. It's kind of in the works, but it's a thought. I'm well aware of it, and yeah, we're trying to get better at it. The other thing I'll say on it is, staff is hard to find, right? Like it is, and I mean I think every business owner would say the same thing. It's hard to find good staff. So we've had a little bit of turnover at the shop. So, my other thought is, I'm aware that people come in and might think, well, they're only here for 4 months anyway, or 6 months anyway, or a year anyway. Why put the effort into building a relationship with them when Corey's not going anywhere? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. Like, I think if I can get and find some staff that are solid and are in the right position, that they can hang around for a while, I do think that will hopefully change that as well, because people will come in, realize that they have the knowledge, realize that they're going to be around, and they can talk to them on multiple occasions, not just come in one time, talk to them, and then never see them again, right?
Yeah.
So that's, but I guess in saying that too, that's just another challenge, right? So, yeah.
I appreciate the vulnerability there and sharing that, because there's challenges in every business and every journey. It's I think it's a good problem to have, because it means you have more demand than what you personally can do, right? If that demand wasn't there, you would just be sitting at the shop hanging out hitting putts by yourself. So
that's right.
It's a good problem to have. Now, you touched on staffing, which I was going to ask you about, but the third thing that I see as a challenge in your business is competing against either golf shops at golf courses or like a golf town, things of that nature. How do you address that? And because I know a lot of people that will go to you no matter what. What have you done to create that stick-to-itiveness or that brand to where people are going to go to you regardless of what golf course they associate themselves with?
Right. So I would say, first of all, I don't look at golf courses as our competition, right? I just think they're two different things. So the golf town, 100%, they rule the roost in our world. Like, that is the person you're constantly chasing or having to deal with. Maybe I'll use that word. Having to deal with. Once again, running one before, I kind of know how silly they are and the silly things they do. So they can be super frustrating at times. So, like the Sport Check, the golf towns, to me, that's our competition. But the golf courses, in my opinion, aren't really our competition. Yes, they sell clubs and they sell similar stuff to us, but they're a golf course. You're there to play golf, right? Like, let's be honest. Point. You're there to play golf. Maybe get some lessons. But in my opinion, like, if you're serious about golf and you want to get like the best fitting, the best knowledge, etc., I don't know. I just think people might even be aware that the golf course probably isn't for that niche isn't the best place to go, right? So that's why I don't think any of the courses are competition for us. I don't know if it's thought of both ways, but that's how I look at it anyway.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Very, very good point. Now, just like with everything, cost of goods, cost of anything is going up, and that's in the golf realm. Prices can get up there quite a bit. How do you deal with your costs increasing and then offloading that to the consumer ultimately? Because there has to be some margin. There has to be some margin in there.
That's right, yeah.
And golf is such a weird industry. It's much like real estate. There's only a few industries, but people kind of expect discounts. It's not like I can go to Walmart and negotiate on my bread that I bought last night.
It's funny you say that, because we say this a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some challenges there, and how do you offset I guess the value component, right? Because you are giving the fittings, you're giving the expertise, you're giving the guidance, there's value there. Yeah. But how do you translate that to the consumer that might not know as much about it as maybe me or someone else?
Right. So that's always a huge challenge for us. Basically for us, you'll never see anything in our shop that is more expensive than Golf Town. So we're either the same, or if on the few things that we can be cheaper on, will be cheaper.
Awesome.
So the thing how we do it anyway is we're never more than them, because once again they rule the roost. And two, if I do have to take a little bit of margin away so that it's a price that would, I guess in my mind, is fair, then I will. On the other side of it, we just wouldn't discount it like we would something else, right?
Yeah.
So we just kind of, let's just say, give the discount before someone even asks there's a discount, right?
Yeah.
To stay afloat. And then I would say the second part of that is kind of what you mentioned. I think the service, I think the vibe in the store, I think that it's always one-on-one. You know what I mean? Like when you have a dealing with us, you're always one-on-one with someone. And I'm going to say that we do, or at least, well, I know we do. We just have the most knowledge. Like and once again, I'm speaking of clubs and fittings, right?
Yeah.
We just have the most knowledge in that area. So I think people are starting to recognize once they spend some time with us that, holy crap, these guys kind of do know what they're talking about, and they can set me up to be better. So I think it just, from that point, it just gets word of mouth. So I would say, knowledge, the experience that you get in the shop, and then the fact that it's always one-on-one, and we take care of people that don't even shop at our store. You know what I mean? Like I get people that come in and they'll be like, oh, I bought this driver at Golf Town and it broke, and so I tease them at the start. I'm like, well, you should take it back there then and get it warranted.
Yeah, it's only a 3-hour drive. Just
right, just because that, once again, I like to joke around. You know me, I like to poke fun and joke around. But we'll warranty, we'll send it back, warranty them. It doesn't cost them anything. And then, in my opinion, we kind of have that customer for life, right? Because they're like, I came here, I didn't buy it here. You guys helped me out. There's 50 people that I could probably name that have done that, and now they shop with us.
Yeah.
So I guess it's things like that we do that, in my opinion, that kind of keeps our name and keeps people coming back to us.
Even though it's you're selling golf clubs, it's very much a relationship business.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
And I think being on behind the scenes in the golfing world, or any service or industry like yours, I get it. People want discounts, but you only. What consumers don't see is, if a golf club costs Corey $100 and he's selling it for $120 and gives you a discount, that purely comes from your margin, right? It's not like you can get it for cheaper just because the consumer wants it. So that's where, to the audience out there, like when you ask for a discount, it comes right from the small business owner's pocket, right? And that's tough, especially now with costs of things going up. I always keep that in mind when I'm shopping, out and about in town anyways. Is like, no, like this is fair. Like you said, you have your standard of Golf Town, and that's the price, right?
Our margins used to be, the golf world margins aren't, like, they're not great. They truly aren't, right? And I don't mind telling people this. It's not a secret. You can probably look it up if you wanted to, right? So like our margins aren't great. And as we go along here, as life is happening, prices are going up, but it's going up further on our side. So our margins are actually shrinking, right? So yes, you are paying more for the product, but so are we. We're paying more. If it went up $50 on your end, it probably went up $100 on our end.
Yeah.
Right? So our margins are just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So, like people, I don't know what it is in the golf world, but apparently you can negotiate any price for any piece of product that there is, right?
It's bizarre.
So one gentleman came in. I'll tell you a funny story. One gentleman came in and he was giving me the gears about, I forget if it was a club or a bag or something, but he was giving me the gears on a discount, and it was already on sale. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. What do you do for work? And I think he said he worked in the oil patch or something. And I was like, okay, so if you make $80 an hour, I said, for the next week, I'm just going to give you $30 an hour. You're okay with that though, right? And he's like, well, no. And I'm like, well, that's what you're asking us to do.
Yeah.
Right? And it wasn't in a rude way any means. Like, we could have that conversation. Obviously, I wouldn't say that if I didn't think I could have that conversation with a guy. Yeah. And he was like, honestly, I've never thought of it that way. Yeah. Right? And then from my side, it's like, really? You haven't? Right? So it's like, so sometimes when you just have open conversations, it actually opens people's eyes to, I guess I'll say our side of it or your side.
Sure.
Of it, right?
It'd be a different story if you could turn around and then get that discount applied on your cost, but that's not a thing, right?
Not a thing. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I appreciate the insight, and I hope that's where I can get to with most of the guests on this podcast is like diving actually into the business, and because that's where I like looking at things is like, how is your business similar to mine, similar to someone else's? Now, talk me through, Corey. 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road, where would you like to see the shop? Is expansion in the forefront of your mind, or is that just, you know what, you're more of like, let's do this busy season really good and then go from there?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been asked that question a lot, and there's been a couple people actually who have approached and said like, if is that something you'd be open to down the road? And I guess for me right now, I'm just unsure of it, and once again, probably because I'm a little unsure of the golf industry at them. Like, if we're talking, you know what I mean, today, right? Just to me, we're at our max. Like, we have drivers that are $900 off the shelf. You can't you can't go higher. So, I'll share this story. This was shared with me, so I'm pretty sure I can share it.
Yep.
Titleist was going to come out with they came out with their driver. They were going to make that driver $949 retail.
Wow.
So Golf Town has so much buying power that they went to Golf Town, told them it was going to be $949. Apparently Golf Town said, if that driver's $949, we're not going to buy one from you.
Wow.
That driver has to be under $900 if we want a chance to sell it. So it's $899.99, right? So they took $50 off of it so that obviously they could continue sales with Golf Town, right? That has to be our limit. Like, it has to be, because if we custom a driver now, you're looking at $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 for a driver, like one club. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm well aware, and as you know, like, I'm a diehard golfer, diehard kind of, we'll call it club junkie, right? I think it's ridiculous, but there's nothing I can do about it, right? So it's insane. Like, there has to be a stop, in my opinion. I talk about this with the reps all the time, like, where is the ceiling? Where is the cutoff where we have now, golf as a whole, has just priced ourselves out of the game?
Yeah.
Right?
Now, question on that, because I don't know the answer to this. Like, how much does the Canadian dollar have to do with that? Because obviously
it does a lot for sure. Yeah, we actually, because the dollar sucks so much right now, it jumped prices jumped this year. So there was quite a few companies that actually had prices set when we did like our booking orders, so our ordering for the year, and then they came back, I'm going to say about 2 months after, and said, hey, sorry, because the dollar stinks so much, this is now, I'll just make up the numbers, but if it was $600, this is now $675.
Yeah.
Right? So it plays a huge factor in prices for sure. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I know I've kept you quite a while, Corey. I do appreciate your time. I appreciate your friendship. Now, I wanted to kind of wrap this up with, if someone is thinking, gosh, I would like to get fit, or, you know, my clubs are getting a little bit older. What's the best way for them to support your business? Is it a simple phone call to the shop and book a time for a fitting? How would someone get in touch with you?
100%, yeah. Just maybe either an email, I would say, an email, or giving the store a call, or just popping in and saying hello. Like you said, we get it all the time where people just come in. They don't buy anything. They just come in because they like the atmosphere and they like to shoot the shit.
Yep.
So I would just say, come in and say hello and kind of see what we offer and have a chat with us. But ideally, just book yourself in and get in there. Well, at the moment with myself.
Yeah, there you go. and just to underscore this, like you said, the vibe about your shop, and that is very true. Like, I like just coming in there and burning some time, hitting some putts, chatting with. There's people in there all the time, and
you run into, you know what I mean. You're in there and you run into a buddy that's walking around. Next thing you know, you guys are talking about a putter, hitting some putts, or maybe helping each other out. Like that's what I like. Like I always call it cheers, but like I want it to be a lesser version of that. Like. Where we're doing good things, but we're having fun doing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that doesn't come without a bunch of work on your end and building that brand up. And just want to acknowledge you for that. And thanks for your time, Corey. I do appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Cool. We'll see you.
Okay, bye.